And as well, we have Kim, who is going to be taking the minutes for us, but if anybody wants to be able to be her backup, it just always helps to have several notes converge on each other. I've had fun reconciling them together as well for all of you. So thank you very much. Again, wanted to draw your attention to discussion item 8.01, re-ranking unfunded program review requests. That's prompted by the fact that we also have occasionally some emergency requests that are coming up. Chemistry itself, for example, had an emergency request for some hot plates that they use in their fluids that are beyond their design life. We had to work through some of the workflow issues to be able to figure out how to be able to see if we can fund those on an emergency basis.
I was waiting for that.
Okay. To be able to fund those on an emergency basis. There are a number of other program requests that have since gone unfunded on the possibility that there may be some funding. You never know. It's just good to be able to sunshine those requests. It's good for transparency. It's also good for accreditation as well. But also some of our needs may have changed too. If there happens to be money, I'm not going to say that there is, whether that's lottery funds that we have somehow found unspent, or if there's even some unspent grant funding, then it's worth it to actually take a look at what we have and then say, should we start to see what our priorities are? Classes do run on the skinny sometimes. People's needs change over the summer. And so there might have been a need to re-rank some of these items. That item, however, on top of prefacing that item, we are going to postpone until the next Senate agenda, because ITC's lists have not yet been included in that list of potentially re-ranked items. So in fairness, let's let ITC do that work, and then we will reconvene on that item when we come back for the 25th. So we are going to postpone that. Otherwise, I would appreciate it if someone would please help me out on this one with a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
I do.
So the agenda is so approved. So thank you. At this time, do we have any public comments?
Yes.
Kathy, take it away.
So those of you that are at the Senate retreat know that I brought up an issue that's been worrying some of us for a long time, and that's the roadblocks that we've put in our students' ways of getting enrolled here. And it has gotten worse. It has not gotten better. And particularly the concern that our department has is we have several late start classes, like a week and a half or 2 weeks late, and we are not able to get ad codes. So this summer I started tracking right before school started in the first week and a half of school, because my class starts the second week. And I told students I would send them ad codes when I had them. And I was tracking who actually emailed me back. And if I asked, and I probably lost in 4 online classes, probably 15 students. Now that does not seem like a lot probably, but I'm taking all the students that I can. I'm adding everybody that wants to add. And it's really discouraging not to give them ad codes, because you all know they'll go shopping. I had some students from up north in the Bay Area, and I thought that probably they were going to go back into the exchange and find another class. So either we need to change that rule and banner, or we need to allow us, those of us who want the late start classes, to not have any wait list. So that way we would access our ad codes immediately. So I don't know how we can change this or where we could go, but I think it's a real block to enrollment for our students. Thank you.
Does anyone have a follow-up?
What is?
I'm gonna suggest you hold this for our discussion item.
You want to hold it?
Yeah, it's public comment now, yeah.
We do have this under one of our discussion items on feedback for fall 2024. And moving forward, we are in a scheduled build period, so I think that would be important. I do have some comments as well with regard to wait lists and also with regard to ad codes. Are there any other public comments, either in the room or in our Zoom room? If not, then let's move forward, please. Approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? We have Danielle. Anyone to second Danielle?
I'll second.
And so,
Tag team. We'll do the tag team.
so approved. Minutes for our July 17 meeting are available for you. If there are any corrections to it that we need to amend, please just let me know. All right, everyone. Roll the minutes out of the way. We have our reports. We have our president's report. Hello. All right, everyone. So just wanted to share this with you. This is a snapshot of the campus, West Campus, as I was going off to the coffee shop. I'm happy to report that I had to wait 20 minutes for a cup of coffee. I had to wait 15 minutes to get out from the West Campus parking lot to get over to East Campus. To be able to get to my meeting with Maria, thank you. But I just want to say I've never been more delighted to actually see more activity on campus. And I'm hoping, as I mentioned in my email to everybody about census data and about the bot situation, that this is not just,
Oh, sorry, that was for Kathy's public comment.
okay.
Forgive me.
Do it again?
I thought that was a Zen moment we were having. On that note, folks, I'm hoping that that bears out in our enrollments as well, that it's not just a casual perception that life is returning to campus, but if you are noticing that our hallways are more heavily populated, if you're seeing more students in your classroom and actually showing up to class, then I'd like to think we're on the road to recovery here. So that's just one bit of news that I wanted to be able to offer you here. And also for those of you who went to our recent Blue Economy event, that apparently we had a large turnout, enough that we actually had the news showing up. So good for us, folks. All right, folks. So I have the pleasure of also, is Beth cooking? Beth,
It's me.
time's over.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Beth. It
Yes.
is wonderful to have you here. Everyone, please let's welcome Beth Cook, who will be serving as for non-credit. But that also means that there is a member of our roster who will go on to bigger, better, more responsible things. She is going to be our FA president for non-credit, a long-standing face of the Senate. This is Tricia Matoma I'm talking about. Two things.
Follow.
She's been my mentor since I started, so.
She's a good mentor.
She sure is.
Beth, on more than a few occasions, when I was doing professional development for online teaching, has darkened my Zoom room and also my email account with lots of questions. I'm so glad to see that how invested you are in teaching for our students, especially under the pandemic. So welcome here. We need your representation from non-credit. And Tricia, it has been a pleasure seeing you in action at the Teaching and Learning Committee. I have enjoyed working with you tremendously. That reminds me that I need to visit with the School of Extended Learning more often. Cornelia has tried to entice me with promises of haircuts from cosmetology. I promise to come and visit once in a while, but also I'm to be there.
Just remembering the training you did, tailored for non-credit, so we wanna definitely be in touch about that.
Yes, and we need to do that more, realistically. Yes, and because realistically, where students could become college students, the idea that we could have a bridge that says, hey, we're trying to acclimate you to what credit instruction might actually look like. We can't exactly use Canvas in exactly the same way, but just to be able to get some familiarity with that, I think is important. So professional development continues, and we should collaborate. But Tricia, thank you so much for serving in this role. I think that I speak on behalf of the entire Senate. Thank you for all of your service.
Thank you to all of you too, it was very supportive.
Josh, I forgot to mention, we have one other person. I don't know if she got to introduce herself.
From our visitor from the channels.
Hi, my name is Sylvia, I'm the newest editor of the channels, and I'll be here this semester to cover this video.
Yeah, I want to say important thing about the newspaper.
Right.
Thank you so much. And if you ever quote me, I will say, I'm sorry, and it wasn't really me.
Thank you.
Right, and on to other updates that I have for you. Actually, something that Kathy O'Connor had requested. I got a chance to be able to talk with Bobby Abram, who is our foundation CEO. Senate has had a working relationship with Jeff Green that I think that we all miss. So I have approached Bobby Abram to ask if he would be able to join us for our September 25 meeting. anything for casual introductions, but also because faculty are going to want to know what the do's and don'ts are. Again, we cannot explain that enough. I'm sure that Jordan can appreciate this, that there are definitely some things we can and cannot do as SBCC employees that is entirely informational, that we are trying to get the word out about the bond as well. So she is going to once again visit with us, and if nothing else, just to be able to say hello.
Will you ask her to bring some bond stuff with her, like yard signs and?
That cannot happen.
No.
But
What if she
Kathy,
went outside the
Kathy,
door?
you'll appreciate this. We have lots of things coming down the pipeline. And we will, by word of mouth. spread the word.
Oh, on my own time, I wrote Bobby Abrams' email that was
We have been trying to get in touch with her. She has been assigned a pipeline email address. Use her foundation address, please.
Also recommend if you just Google Measure P, SBCC, you'll find a website that has a lot of information and you can sign up to volunteer on that said
Oh,
website.
that's more better than this, okay.
Or better.
More better.
That's just actual information that I can share again,
Good.
and I use college time.
Thank you,
Even if you didn't.
No worries. Thank you, Jordan. Always being our conscience when it comes to getting through this voting season. Barbara and then Tricia, please.
And I don't want to turn this into a giant conversation, but I do have a question. Is the college in any capacity or is any member of the administration allowed to respond to anything that has been published within the community about the bond? So if somebody makes a particular argument for or against, are we allowed to respond?
I would recommend to.
And I don't mean me, but I just.
I would recommend not to refrain. There are responses.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Similar lines, we're seeing a lot of questions coming up on like things like the Nextdoor apps, and I was just curious if anybody's monitoring that. I know the college isn't really allowed to, but there's really great questions, and I feel like these are the people who are going to vote because they're actively involved in the community.
So as the foundation is running a campaign, they have hired a consultant, Charles Heath. He is over the monitoring. So I will just say, I'm volunteering right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm hearing your Facebook capacity.
Every day I'm in contact with him, sharing all the information. See, that we're.
But I mean, as just as a follow-up to Tricia, with Nextdoor, which honestly, whatever, I won't editorialize, but can be somewhat a pernicious purveyor of misinformation, but I just would say it is a neighborhood thing that you have to be part of an area in order to see the posts. So if there's a way you can convey to your contact, Jordan, that the individual board members probably should be monitoring, maybe they should be deputized to be reaching out to Nextdoor postings in their area, which will pertain to where they live. It might be a good idea.
I appreciate that. How about this? You can also take a screenshot and send it to my personal email, jordankilbrew@gmail.com. That's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any closing remarks about the bond measure, or shall we wait until Bobby Abrams discusses? Right. An item that I wanted to follow up, there have been several threads that have come my way on this one. Thank you also, Laura, for bringing this to my attention. It's about women's lacrosse. Also got a chance to be able to exchange with Kathy O'Connor and also to be able to ask for some advice from Paloma as well. And the challenge is there is currently no advisor. As I understand it, it is Rayanne who was originally advisor and that she is now on sabbatical. And realistically, there are costs and safety issues that also come into play as well. Because it is an athletics club, it does cost us more. We have to consider injury insurance as well. That's also a concern too. There are some concerns, however, that did come up at steering as to why it is that we have a men's lacrosse club. Where is the gender equity there? That was concern that popped up too, but personnel wise, we are just spread. There were also questions about whether or not It would be possible, if it turns out to be the case, that men's lacrosse was using UCSB's facilities.
They were for years.
They were for years, but where are they now? Are they not?
Would you like me to tell you?
Yeah.
Or would you like me not to tell you?
It would be helpful because I do want to do some outreach to them, just to make sure that they are not left hanging. They did go through, the Office of Student Life to send out a request to the campus. I do not know if there was a formal response, but I don't want to leave them hanging, so anything you could bring to the table.
So lacrosse is a real problem in our area. It doesn't matter whether it's men or women's because of the field. And our field is just jam-packed. I mean, it's used way more than it should be. And then the second issue with using our field is when you have lacrosse, you have to actually close the entire track. So no one from the public or any other class can be down there on that facility when they have lacrosse because it's dangerous, because those little balls fly. And I think the worst thing the campus would want is to have a death in lacrosse. So there really, the issue really isn't, there's a lot of money. I mean, men's lacrosse is a club. It was a club last year, didn't cost the college anything that I'm aware of. ACO is, in biology, is the advisor for that club. She's present at every practice. And we have had, it's taken us 3 weeks to find night times, Sunday times. I mean, it's very strange schedules where we have a free time and the field isn't being used by us, YFL, the soccer leagues, Bishop. I mean, we're just full. So the deal with women's lacrosse is when Rayanne was the advisor, you know, she went and got a bunch of money from the administration to travel and do everything, which is not a club. That's not really a club. And also she was not always present when they had practice and getting practice time again. So it's really a problem. Having lacrosse is just a problem regardless of whether it's men or women. And you have to have an advisor that's willing to actually be there at all those practice times. So we're probably gonna have a hard time finding somebody and also finding somebody that actually knows anything about lacrosse, because it's a sport, has different skills required to sponsor them than say, you know, the book club or, you know, crochet club or whatever. It might be. So it's a problem for us all the way around.
Right. So last year, I had responded when they asked for a club advisor, just to find out more about it. And I calculated that it would be 15 to 20 hours a week. And yeah, in terms of covering all the practices and.
Well, actually, you
traveling
wouldn't
to
get that
meetings.
many hours anyway, so.
Maybe not, but like, I just,
But
that,
that's what
I
you want.
was like, I can't do that. And so it would seem to me that if you were to do this, you might be able to have like multiple advisors, but even that starts to get really complicated.
And you know,
And
there's
that's why,
travel that they have to have. Their clubs don't have to travel. The men don't. Travel.
well, this was the women's vision.
Yes, I
of what
know,
they were
because that's what
doing.
they got to
Yeah.
be able to do.
So in any case, it's just, it's a lot of time that a lot of us faculty simply don't have because we're stretched so.
Does anyone know if there has been a formal response to the club?
Formal, like how formal, what do you mean?
To be able to say, we know that you put out this request. I'm sorry, we do not have an advisor for
I
you.
mean, that's up to the Amy. Amy Collins. Amy's the one that needs to respond. I mean, it's not any of our responsibility. We've all said, I mean, I have emailed the student back. Ladine has emailed the student back. I mean, we have told them that we don't have anybody in our area. And not only that, but scheduling now is really a challenge.
I responded as well because of my being contacted by a couple of other staff and stuff who had heard. And they said, Laura, would you be willing to do this? You're into sports. And I am, I'm a football person. And I would do it, but I just said, guys, I'm spread too thin. And I responded back to the student myself and I said, you are heard, we know what you need, but we have to find somebody who can do it. And until that happens, I apologize, but you're not the only club that doesn't have a sponsor, but you know, that's just, and so they were like, thanks, you know, we just want people to know. And so that's what I was like, and I told them that I brought it to Senate and that I would take it back to, you know, ask the senator to just take it back to their divisions or whatever. And if somebody's willing to do it. That'd be great.
I appreciate very much that you reached out to them. It's unfortunate, again, our operating capacities, personnel, funding, these are our limitations unfortunately, but I didn't want to leave them hanging, so thank you for responding to them. Coordinator positions, everyone, I will be meeting with Maria tomorrow, but I'll get that option, I appreciate it. We will be reviewing what applications we have for the sole coordinator position. Also, an update regarding the faculty distance education coordinator. It did go on hiatus pending negotiations between the district and the FA. Got a chance to be able to meet with Beth Taylor Schott to be able to take a look at both the faculty distance ed coordinator position and the POCA coordinator position as well. Both of them were advertised previously under different sources of funding as well. That's actually good just for transparency with the Department of Education as well. Essentially, the two positions themselves are not exclusive of one another. The work of the distance ed coordinator is going to overlap with the POCA coordinator work. We may be represented on the exchange, but our classes themselves need to be up to accreditation standards. Our courses are vulnerable now that they are in the public eye, and our students deserve better instruction. This is maintenance for many of our courses that we are asking to do. And also to be able to prioritize where they will appear on the exchange too. So we need to get courses badged. If there was one piece of feedback that was offered by Justina and also by Rob Brown as well, it's that when it comes to conceiving the two positions, and I don't know if it really makes a difference about what source of funding funds what part of this position that's been merged into one. But he wanted to emphasize that the POCA coordinator's role may be that much narrower in terms of the scope of work, but it is the bulk of the work for this individual. To be able to try, for those of you who actually got your courses badged, you know what an experience it is to be able to have your course turned inside out and to be able to make this accessible. That's also one of the challenges for trying to get someone to be able to do this work. I recall asking someone if they wanted to be perhaps a POCA reviewer, and that person said, I would not wish that work on anybody. But that's also where it
that's
is
very
very
encouraging.
detailed and meticulous work, but that's also where we have to emphasize. Yes, you do have to go through this training, but also you are not without support. The entire FRC will turn its attention towards helping you to be able to do the conversion process. We have outlined in one of our grants funding for an hourly worker to be able to get through the grind of this. But there are other, they already hired them, so they are ready to go. But that's also what we need to articulate for whoever the prospective candidate might be for this position. But we need it because many of our courses are simply not up to standard. The last thing that I want are fingers pointed in our direction that you have all these courses that are out there and that they are not offering even the most basic level of regular substantive interaction, that these are not accessible in the way that they should. There are challenges also because some of our materials are not authored by us. They are public facing. Some of them are also required by the state. And so therefore, we may run up short on some of these, just like other community colleges, because of the fact that we do not control these documents. But that also says we need to highlight that as well and to say, where are we coming up short? All right, folks. So fraudulent enrollments, we will talk about that for one of our later discussion items as well. But based on what we have discussed at CPC most recently, most of the fraudulent applications have been flagged. If there were some suspicions that might have made the tipping point for any classes that might have been canceled, that will be pending further investigation. If there is something that I do want to reiterate, it's that their tactics for being able to get enrolled with us and to register, they are getting more sophisticated, but so are we. We have a really strong dedicated team from admissions and records, IoT, and also financial aid who are watching this. You, the faculty, are also going to be part of that equation too, but it is a heavy lift if you consider what we are trying to look for in terms of potential fraudulent enrollments. That's something that both Maria and Paloma updated us on at the last CPC meeting. Just a reminder also, the AEP committee is going to be meeting this week to be able to go over changes to AEP 7151. our 5 performance criteria for our evaluations. We spent our summer retreat second half to be able to go over some of the changes in wording. So Melissa and the rest of the AP committee are going to review that and possibly bring that to us for a second read through for the September 25 meeting. Also wanted to draw to your attention some of the work of the PRT group as well. We have an event that is being tentatively planned for October 11th to try to do a soft restart on what we understand to be participatory governance. We have made a service request to ASCCC to see if we can gather together some guest speakers for that event. We have a day of events that we have planned. Right now, it is just a soft announcement as to the date. We are still trying to be able to shore up the terms and conditions contract that we sent over to them. Erica is going to provide written authorization to be able to move forward with this, but depending on how those speakers come together and hoping that they can speak to us cross-constituently. Is that a word? Cross-constituency. Cross-constituency appeal, let's say that. To have cross-constituency appeal and that the makeup, gender and race and ethnicity wise, that it is a balanced team that we are going to have as well. And putting this on your radar, excuse me.
You said there was like a soft date for this?
Yes, October 11th.
October 11th.
October 11th is what we're shooting for. So, Kim, please.
Just jump in. So Josh has graciously stepped into the faculty co-chair role. So thank you, Josh. And it's a great team with Julie Sampson and Ryan Alexander and Keller Maginot now. So the 4 of them are planning, and I'm there sometimes as to, support from what we did last year. I guess I'm just hoping that this is the kind of thing, if you have anybody in your division who you know is especially interested in trying to support participatory governance, this is really a once in a generation chance at this college, and we're kind of coming back out of COVID. Faculty often in this room express concerns. The administration don't seem to sometimes be hearing our input. Well, this is your chance to contribute to thinking about better ways to work together and get the people who have the expertise at the table as we make really important decisions going forward about budget and facilities. So it's an all-day event. We think it's going to be October 11th, but we're waiting to hear. It's just this is a really special moment in the college. I know we're already getting exhausted by so many things, but there's somebody or many people hopefully who are going to be here for a while and want to contribute to the shape we're going to be in going forward. So just please put the date out and really actively ask individuals.
And Erica will be sending out a notation this week, a save the date. So we'll be October 11th in the campus center and outside of campus center. So just keep an eye out for that information and link we can do so you can just look for it.
And can you ask our department to move our meeting?
Do we have a?
Yeah.
Oh, is it on? Oh,
Yeah, so just,
God.
have to pick another. Yeah.
Or
Likely all day.
An all day.
You'll have a choice for the morning only though, because the afternoon workshops are like this dig-in stuff. So the vision now is the morning with the outside speakers and a really nice lunch for community building and kind of getting the big picture. And there's afternoon workshops. Yeah, Friday.
Have the center,
Yeah.
the campus center.
We are trying to stick to that October 11 deadline. We know that this is a significant commitment of time, and also we are putting some funding behind this as well. So we are going to try to stay in touch with everybody if there are any changes. They did have a very liberal cancellation policy, which got us a little bit nervous. And then we asked them and they said, well, we've never in our history had to have a serious cancellation, but they will work with us regardless.
And just a reminder, the money is a grant, not our own money.
Not our money,
Yeah.
entirely grant funded. Thank you to Kim, everybody else who works on the PRT to be able to bring this to us. I just merely signed the application as the incoming president.
You did more than that.
And budgets, there's been long rumblings about a budget committee to be able to make sure that faculty also have a say at the table, all of our other constituencies as well. So on screen for you, been making the rounds, trying to communicate with others and also getting recommendations as to who might be on that budget committee. Ruth Morales is in. Also, Jamie, I don't know if we have formally asked it, but I just do want to let you know, since you're in Zoom joining us today, that your name was also very heavily favored for this. Danielle Swiatek as well, because she has a gift for narrative, and also she scrutinizes every last board agenda. Thank you, along with our finances too. Laura Wyatt, because she is also master doctor of all things finance, accounting law and regulations. We also need you there. And also I've approached Pam Gunther as well. She is in, but I've asked her to join our institutional effectiveness committee as our faculty instructional representative. She is also getting a certificate from the UCs in institutional effectiveness as well. So what you have here is also a plan for rotating. Schedules change all the time, so we have lots of people to be able to tap on that one. So for the next CPC meeting, there will be more details that will be offered, including the charge and the responsibilities for our constituencies as well. Hopefully that will also give us some more clarity about working together on what the budget outlook is, and also what that means for, at least for instructional, what that means for scheduling as well, and for meeting some of our programming. Oh, there is a question. Jamie, please.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure I understand what you just said. So I would very much like to serve on the budget committee. Is that what you're asking me to do, or my name just floated but they went with you mentioned Ruth was on there?
No, you are chair of PNR. It makes sense for you to be on this, please, Jamie.
I agree.
We have our team, everyone.
Right, excellent, thank you.
Can we call how many applicants we could have?
3.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So it's Ruth
Ruth, Jamie,
and Danielle.
Danielle, and Wood. We have, once again, we have our team.
Look, it's so we're not gonna get
It's the protocol that we're supposed to take a vote for this.
I never remembered that after 3 years.
I will say, when BRAC was formed, it was pretty random. I mean, in terms of how the faculty were capped.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that that was a precedent that we wanted to, follow, but I don't believe, as for sure at that time, it was not a formalized vote kind of thing.
This is your call, John. You appoint them.
Thank you for that thought.
I appoint them. Then I say, once again, we have our team.
Oh, I was just saying, it seemed like there was some confusion. I have no clue because I wasn't involved in this in the past. And since there's some confusion, I always err on the side of doing too much. Do we need to make a motion that these are the people on the team that second it to cover? No, we're good.
This isn't.
You have your team.
This is the president's report, so.
Oh, got it.
And I think we end up with the same composition of the team. I'm actually pretty happy with the composition of our faculty side of the budget committee. And lastly, I forgot who actually brought this up at steering, but in advisory, please check your flag. Make sure that your overload steps are correct. For those of you who have PhDs, make sure that your bonuses are actually represented there. And so please review your employee notes as well. That's my president's report, everybody. Thank you very much. May I please turn this over to our Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Maria Leah Gomez.
Thank you. Do you mind pulling up my document there? So, hi everyone, welcome to, I guess, the first public meeting for the semester. Then we have it on the retreat, of course. So we have an EDP. I mean, we have an vision plan. That EDP can be daunting of a chart for some of you. Brings back memories, but we do have a complete admission plan, which we are going to be introducing formally to the Board of Trustees and the community at large tomorrow, at tomorrow's meeting. You can click on it there. It's beautiful in terms of its design, but it's also comprehensive in terms of its content. The design credit all goes to Marketing and Communications Office, Jordan here present, and so the content goes to, kudos goes to the 3 vice presidents, VP Smith, VP Arnold, and myself, along with the work groups that have representatives from all the constituent groups This was a year long in the making, with the help of our key consultants. You might remember that throughout the year, we gave you periodic updates. So that's the plan for the next 4 years. In terms of next steps would be, of course, the implementation phase, for which we are recommending 4 faculty reps appointed by the Senate leadership. It could be the same faculty that were part of the work group, or it could be completely different folks. It's up to Josh to recommend who he wants on that, on the work group for the implementation phase. Yes.
And I know this is just a report, maybe we'll have another chance, but I have a concern about thinking of a work group model for implementing something that's basically foundational to the entire function of the college. You know, we really need to live up to the plans that we write. So I guess I feel like the existing committees and structures should be the ones who implement this. I don't know if that means who you officially name. No, I mean like the Senate and the Teaching and Learning Command, the Strategic Enrollment Management Plan, and like Dean's Council Plus, maybe additional meetings there. I mean, I guess I feel like the work group model made sense to write a plan, but not so much to implement one. And I just sort of I don't really know the answer, but I happen to know Dee and Stephanie and Josh, who's now president, and I was on it. I don't think that,
Sure.
but even if, I don't know who the 4 faculty would be that we pick. I wonder if it needs to be through department chair structures or divisional, I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm just
Yes,
concerned.
and I heard you, loud and clear at CPC, and so I am absolutely open, in terms of who ought to be part of the implementation group. I'm happy to chat with Josh about that. We haven't had the time to do
Of
that
course,
yet.
yeah,
But absolutely, and I think, again, it might make sense to, once we sit down and actually have time to look at the actual activities,
yeah,
maybe that is self-explanatory, maybe, it's an activity that is totally within 10+1, and then maybe that is something that the Senate carries through. And, if it's something related to student services, maybe that's something that we need to consider. So absolutely, and I don't mean to take more time here, but
yes, thank you for hearing it.
for sure. The other point is, well, let me ask you this. Do you need me to go through each one of these points, or I did provide the doc, I don't know if you've had time to review the report today, or do I just open it for questions? Everything that I'm going to share with you is already in the docs. I could quickly go over each one item, or I can answer some specific questions that you might have about any of these items that are listed in the report.
Some of
You guys.
Some of these we are going over in other discussion items, like for example, where we are in terms of hiring.
Right.
When it comes to the request for replacement tires as well, there's a timeline that is in my notes that we could discuss too.
I think people like to pause on the productivity situation, just because we've worked so hard on it, it's not the greatest
Yeah.
news, so people want to look at that for a minute.
And that would be, I think, the summer 2024 item, just to wrap up and let you know where we ended, how we wrapped up summer 2024 in terms of fraud. It wasn't what I was hoping for. And a lot of, meaning you can see that we were flat in terms of efficiency compared to exactly last summer. It wasn't what I was hoping for. However, and this is a big however, Bob's had a lot to do with it. Because they started coming back. The first week of July, I can almost identify the weekend where I noticed a 200+ enrollment drop. And so by then, we already had the full schedule open, running, about to close for some courses. So that's what explains the flat fraud for summer 2020.
What are we doing about these problems? I just got asked to call 45 people on my roster. And I'm sorry, this is not, I hate to say it, it's not my job, but dude, what is IT doing? This is killing us. I'm canceling classes. I'm kicking people.
8.04,
I'm
item
dropping
8.04.
things, make it more productive, and this shit is happening, and it's pissing me off. because I'm killing myself. Every one of these faculty members are killing themselves to make us more productive, to add enrollment, to add gap, to take classes away, to do whatever we can. And then this is happening. It's like, it seems like every time we get 2 steps ahead, it's like, well, sorry. And then it's not just us, it's Ventura, it's every college, it's the chancellor's office that needs to come up with something, but this is total and utter crap.
And we will be discussing that. I know.
Hurrah.
We'll be discussing that further, and I couldn't agree more. I was so disappointed and frustrated because we've been working so hard on fraud. And then when I discovered how low we went this summer, I was absolutely devastated. And so, yes, we need to have more space to have these conversations. I will say in a nutshell, IT is on it, A&R is on it, and we're reaching out to other colleges to see what else they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yes, I hear the frustrations loud and clear.
Today, we also have some presentation material as well from out of Mira Costa College and also Santiago Canyon College as well. They're contending with some of the same problems. It's irksome because we are a public institution. They are defrauding us and the state of California. We are here to serve people and they're stealing from us. There are things pedagogically that we can do that are simply good. When it comes to 0 week in the first week that we can talk about, I think what we're doing, the picture, however, is complicated because of AI.
It's very complicated, and we are identifying them, and they're being dropped, and then they are re-enrolling right away, right after. So it's a very complex thing and super frustrating and super problematic for fraud effort year or period of time. Is there another one that you want to just kind of quickly go over?
Enrollment management webinar, because I got a calendar invite, but that's no longer on for 20.
Yeah, we had a schedule conflict with the presenter. So we're looking at, she's been asked to send over a couple of Fridays that she has open. So looks like early October will be when we will offer another enrollment management webinar. Nevertheless, those will be recorded and we'll share with everyone in case you can't make it.
So, back to the calendar.
And then the academic calendar, we're gonna begin meeting soon to start the conversation about the 26-27 academic calendar. I know that some folks on campus are interested in revisiting the 2-reg cycle for summer. So we have promised that this next go round, we're going to revisit the conversation. And so we are keeping our promise that that discussion will occur. So more to come soon. And other than that, I'll open it up for questions if there's time.
Does anyone have any follow-up questions for Dr. Villagomez?
Well, is it appropriate to ask which 6 departments have retired then?
I think so.
It's in the board. And
Let's see.
I got it.
2 full-time faculty from cosmetology, and then we 2 from like, I said to Dr. Price, what are you doing? What's happening? So 2 from cosmetology, 1 from psychology.
Mhm.
1 from
Justice Studies.
digital, do I want to say digital?
Oh, it's Anne Reading.
And from Justice Studies.
Wait, which one is it?
Just Anne Reading.
Just.
Anne Reading. Anne
That's
Reading.
right, yes,
Feels like.
and Gallegos,
Yeah, you go, so.
Michael.
Oh, right.
From multimedia.
Yes,
And Eric.
and then, yes, psychology. And then also Chem, chemistry, Eric.
Eric Bullock, yeah.
He's actually retiring effective December, so.
Wow.
Everyone else is staying until May or June.
Oh, my goodness.
That's it.
Sisters.
Okay.
So Eric's.
Oh, really? Wow, that's for.
Not for us. It's bad.
Thank you so much, Dr. Villagomez.
Do you have the names in front of you still?
We will post
Yeah, sure.
updates from our Vice Presidents of Student Affairs. Paloma, please, thank you for joining us.
Hi there, everyone. So I actually am going to give you a little bit of information about fraudulent enrollments and bots. I wanted to, I checked in with admissions and records. and wanted to give you all just some general numbers. Obviously, these are still moving. But for non-credit, so some of you might not be aware that bots are now targeting non-credit now that we're using CCC Apply. Because even though non-credit students are not eligible for financial aid, which is what we know that the bots are after, ultimately, non-credit gives them an academic history, which makes their enrollment processes easier at Santa Barbara City College and other colleges. So for non-credit, about 475 holds and drops were placed on non-credit applications. For credit, we placed over 1,000 holds on suspected fraudulent bots, and we dropped almost 550 applications. And I'm intentionally not using the word students because they are not students. We dropped almost 550 applications who were enrolled in at least 12 units.
So just to clarify, Paloma, those were people who made it to rosters as opposed to just applying.
Those were people who made it to rosters, yes. And those 550 were identified, huge help and support from faculty. They were also identified through the fraud filters that we have in place. So we have identified, like I mentioned previously, several patterns. And when we notice that there are enrollments falling in line with these patterns, then we're taking extra steps to try to verify their identities. And if we cannot verify their identities, then we are dropping them. One thing new that we brought back this year to hopefully mitigate them being dropped and then re-enrolling right away in another class or the same class is that we put back the fraudulent hold on all of these applications. So now the minute that we've identified that they are suspected fraud, we put a hold on them so they can no longer do anything, any registration, any drops. They cannot conduct any college business, which is good. And it's also challenging because we have found that it's not perfect. So our filters are not perfect. Previously, we found about 20% of the students that were identified in our filters were actually real students. So it's a challenge to put the holds on because then we are putting a hold on a real student potentially as well. We were first focusing on classes that started at the start of the term. We're now shifting our focus to classes that are late start classes. I don't know who it was who was expressing frustration in the room, but we absolutely share your frustration.
Own it.
We have basically a full-time person in admissions and records doing this work almost exclusively. So you have been asked to call your students. We have been calling hundreds of students, verifying applications, verifying addresses, trying to match addresses with phone numbers. IT has been working overtime trying to update filters. We have met with Ventura IT, Ventura District IT to understand what they're doing. They're doing almost the same things that we are doing. They have a new software in place, which we're exploring to purchase also. It's not cheap. But so we are continuing to try to work on this, but please know that both admissions and financial aid have a full-time person working on this almost all of the time because it is really frustrating, overwhelming, sad, disappointing, all of the above. Happy to answer any other questions. Sorry to give sort of a Debbie Downer update today. I also just wanted to ask a quick favor. I'm not sure who's near the microphone, but there is some conversations happening near the microphone. And when that happens, it's really hard for those of us on Zoom to hear the main person speaking. So if whoever's near the microphone, if you could maybe just be aware of that, that would be super helpful for those of us on Zoom.
Where's the microphone? There's three, those
I
three.
don't know.
I have a question, Loma.
Yeah.
Katie.
Hi, Katie.
One thing that I do the first week, if somebody doesn't show up, is actually try to reach them by phone. And of late, I find there are more students who have none listed
Yeah,
on the advisor stuff. And is that not like a mandatory
field.
thing? Or
No,
not?
a phone number is not a mandatory field, but not having a phone number can be a potential fraudulent enrollment. Or if you call it and it is it's disconnected. So if they have that and other characteristics and they haven't shown up the first week.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Christie, I think that's me.
Chrissy?
I don't know if this is where to bring this up or not, but
Yeah.
for the last 4 years, I found out recently, students can get on multiple wait lists, and that didn't used to be the case. How do we address that? And that may be impacting.
So I think that that started when we started doing the automatic waitlist process. Banner 8 can't do both things. We had a discussion recently about that at Dean's Council. And I think that's a discussion that we maybe should table for a different time, because I think that's part of the ad code discussion that I think it was Kathy who brought up earlier. I don't actually think that's impacting fraudulent enrollments. What we know to be pretty true is that the fraudulent enrollments are targeting low enrolled classes. They're not looking to get on wait lists, they're looking to get immediately registered in classes. So they're targeting low enrolled classes, and they literally start at the top of the alphabet. So accounting, business, administration of justice, online, those are the ones that we have seen more often. And they are
That's wonderful.
usually late start, low enrolled. They're not usually students on waiting lists because they want to be enrolled right away.
I think it's a symptom though of the bots, in that they can't get in the class because of the bots, so they're trying to get on multiple wait.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That could be the case. I think that was Sabrina who said that. And I know it's something that we are discussing with admissions and records, and it's also something that we are looking and exploring, and hopefully we'll be testing soon with Banner 9.
So the hope is that Banner 9 will be able to correct that,
Yes,
the multiple wait lists.
yes.
Great, thank you.
Laura?
How much are we communicating this issue of bots with our students? Like, do our students understand? Because I think they can be a help, the real people that are coming to our classes. If they're aware of it, and like, we tell them and educate them, you need to watch your account. You need to watch, like, if there's a hold, we need you to be responsive because we're trying to get ahead of this. We want to keep classes open for you. So I think we need our students to help us work for this problem so that like they're not being dropped and then because they're out to lunch and they're the typical student who's not paying attention to their account and they're not paying attention and now they're.
Need to remind all senators that we have this agendized item. I want to save it for the discussion, but I think it's an important comment.
I'm just saying, I think we should involve our students in that helping process because they can help us fight this problem as well, not just the people who work here, but also the people who go to school here for education.
How does it help? I mean, truly, I don't know. I know we're going to talk about this later, but how would they?
So she can answer the question later. Let's go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Paloma? Paloma, do you have any other updates for us?
No, I was just bringing that fun one for you all today.
I do have a quick question for the minutes, Paloma. For non-credit, you mentioned 475 holds. Was that before they got enrolled or were students on the rosters and non-credit as well?
It was both, and I don't have the specific breakdown,
Okay,
Kim, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we will return to the discussion about bots, and it probably won't be the last one either. It's not through this yet. We have a number of late start courses that we need to keep an eye on too. But I also agree, I'll just leave this one note for you, Laura. There are practices, particularly when we ask students to engage each other. When it comes to those discussion comments, the exchanges that they have could also be another layer added on to this with the incentive that says, look, if our enrollments are low, we need to look out for these bots because they are occupying space that other students can. Those discussions are important for student interaction. And frankly, it's also a reminder to faculty, you need to read those first week discussions.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Paloma. I appreciate it. All right, everybody, we have a few consent items here. Senate steering membership. We have me, we have Tara, we have Kim, we have Katie, we have Dee, we have Elizabeth, we have Stephanie. And it was previously Tricia as well, representing non-credit. That is the composition of our team. If it turns out that you have any agenda items that you would like to bring to Senate, please feel free to contact either me or Tara, or reach out to any of the other members of the steering committee. So may I have a motion, please, to approve this consent item? Danielle, can we have a second? Shall we get, Barbara, thank you. Shall we have a vote? All in favor of approving these consent items? We have the ayes. Do we have any abstentions? Do we have any nays? All right, that is our steering committee for Senate. Thank you, everyone. And updates to our Senate committee chairs list as well. Academic policies, the AP committee is going to be headed up by Melissa Menendez. Curriculum Advisory Committee, thank you once again, Tara. Always. Instructional Technologies Committee, Lori, thank you so much for your continued work there. Jamie, we are so glad that you are taking over for Bill while he's on sabbatical. Thank you very much. Planning and Resources Committee, Sabbatical Leave and Faculty Recognition Committee, Darren Gerard, and also Teaching and Learning Committee. I'm sorry to say that I'm going to be stepping down from being co-chair of that committee so that I can join all of you at Senate, but Tara is also going to be assisting. One of the big charges that they had was also moving forward with certification. I will continue to help in that arena. We already have a lot of that work in place. That is about being able to get a waiver for certification. If it turns out that you have ample professional development, you should be credited for that. But that's work that Justina and Tara are going to continue as well. So I look forward to working with both of you. Can I get a motion to approve this consent item for our Senate committee chairs, please?
Stephanie and I are doing it.
Can we get a vote? All those in favor of approving this consent item? Any abstentions? Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, on to informational items 7.01. It's only our only informational item. Just to give you a little bit of background on this one, folks, this is our facilities vision plan. The campus had hired Cambridge West to be able to assist us with looking at our campus facilities, also trying to see the efficiency with which we are using these facilities as well, getting as granular as room usage for lectures versus labs. To be able to look at the operating cost for maintaining these buildings as well, and also zoning them by the function of these buildings, for which we have had a lot of back and forth and a lot of feedback to be able to bring this up to speed. Originally, this was going to be an item for today. It was Brian Fonstock and also it was Megan Gauss of Cambridge West who were going to have an hour-long presentation with 10 minutes built in. To be able to cover the facilities vision plan. We have since provided feedback on that document. The bulk of what you are seeing here was given to us by Katie, by Kathy O'Connor, as well. Danielle too, thank you. I threw in a couple in there for good measure as well. I know that this is a lot to be able to look through, so attached to the agenda, just in case you want to take a look at this, I have taken all of the changes that they have made to the as close to finalized doc as possible. So wherever you are looking in this PDF, where there are highlights, you will see our work group's own submissions here. Some of those, most of those changes were actually accepted. Many were grammatical changes that we suggested, changes in wording. There were some broader questions that were also included that I have included on this list. So please have a flip through it. And if you do have some questions, just for clarification, there will be 10 minutes built into that presentation on the 25th to be able to go over the facilities vision plan. Thank you to everybody who contributed to this. It is a long document to be able to look through. So I appreciate all the work that you have done. Thank you again. Let me get back to the agenda here.
Josh, is that with the annotated version, is that linked to the agenda?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I didn't see the yellow things, maybe I'm looking.
It's actually this doc right here. So, just,
Oh,
so it is a PDF, so you're gonna have to download it, and then open it up in Adobe so that you can actually see in Adobe what those comments are.
So I didn't see any either.
If you hover over what's highlighted, then the yellow box comes up.
Oh.
Yeah. There, it's the color coding also. I'm afraid that this is where the color scheme sometimes works against the yellow highlighting. So you may have to drag and drop here and there, but if you want the summary doc that summarizes all of this, then thankfully the reviewers have also pinpointed by page and sometimes by paragraph, so it would be easier to be able to identify. All right, everyone, so we can expect that next week we are going to have a packed schedule because we have moved this to September 25. That is an hour of our work. So we are going to try to be judicious with our time with the other items that we're going to have for the next meeting. On to our discussion items. Remember, re-ranking unfunded program review request. This is pending a discussion with ITC so that they are included on that list. So thank you, Lori, and also our thanks to Kathy as well, and the rest of our PNR group. And also thank you also to Jamie for also volunteering to head up this discussion as well. On to discussion item 8.02, updates regarding academic year 2024-2025 for faculty hiring. Just wanted to offer some updates from out of Dan Levine Schmidt and also talking with Erica as well about what our outlook is for being able to hire. Part of this was touched upon by Maria's updates as well about where we are with our FON. We are 20 over at this point, and that FON has actually dropped. And so unfortunately, we are just not going to be funded in the way that we expected to. So that is one of the biggest limiting factors when it comes to hiring. As for other possibilities, the possibility that we may be able to hire on an emergency basis, that is very tentative at the moment, but that is still under consideration. We still have our own Senate responsibilities to take a look at who has put in a request for replacement hires, and to be able to rank them. If nothing else, then to be able to sunshine those programs or departments' needs. So those are the updates that I have with regards to our possibility for future faculty hiring. I've also attached here a little bit of a turn back time, folks. This is the Senate's approved criteria for essential full-time faculty hires. The list includes program survival as a criteria, single full-time faculty, difficulty in hiring adjunct faculty, a program that cannot be fostered by another department, accreditation, licensing requirements, legally required to provide this service opportunity to students. Position is subsidized in some way. For example, DSPS, 80% paid by categorical funds, ADM program supported by Cottage Hospital, probably others. Valuable and unique resource that supports our local community. Think strategically about new hires to meet the needs of the community and grow our programs. Are there other criteria that we want to add to this list? Should it become possible, even on an emergency basis, to be able to hire? Or do you find this to be comprehensive of what the campus needs?
The last bullet is something that we rewrote, and I don't think, it doesn't quite fit grammatically, which of course is not tormenting me. But if everybody gets it content-wise, that maybe doesn't matter, but I believe this was from minutes that I took, but I believe we thought about this because we were worried about, say, something like the blue economy. Like there's just something there's something new that we really want to do, so that would rise to the certain, does that sound right to you guys too? So maybe should we just make it strategic planning? Or like, maybe nobody else cares, but, what?
How is that?
Different than the valuable and unique, that would be more like something that exists, I think, like, but that's a good point.
I think that last bullet makes things very gray,
Yeah.
and everybody's gonna think they're gonna fit into that category.
I
I just don't know I think the other ones are much more sort of measurable
Yeah,
and much more, objective. That last one is just too subjective.
I'm gonna go back and look at those, what we cut out.
So like it's valuable, the last one, meaning that there's like a grant for it, where like strategic is like, it's a direction we wanna go to because the board of supervisors says, hey, you know, it'd be great if we offered X, Y, Z.
And here's what they say, unvaluable and unique resources, something like the parent child workshop, you know, which
That is.
that's what I came out of. I think the last bullet point was about, like, for example, sociology is developing a social work program, right? That is is a way to grow students. It serves a need for the community. We need more social workers. The Blue Academy would be a similar thing, that if you're deciding to build a program, you're gonna have to hire for that program, which is different from like parent-child workshop. So, you know, I think that's where that was trying to come from. Maybe we need to workshop the language, but.
That's really good memory, Danielle. That's it exactly. And Tara explained the social worker program, like the work they did, you know, like.
I would say that if we keep it on there and we get those proposals, you know, we as a Senate, of course, can rank them lower because they don't rise to the top, but maybe they fulfill that need to document that this has been a long-standing need for a department.
If you have people do that, you're gonna have a bunch of applications that have long-standing
Oh,
needs.
they might, maybe we need that. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's like the library king for a decade. You know.
I don't think we would rank it.
That's 40 years.
Is that how long it's gonna take for us to
At least 40 years of PE to go to that.
I want to remind everyone that last year we made the decision not to take a big call. We're like, it's not worth anyone's time. So I think that's clearly where we are again now. I think you will put it into your program review resource request to continue to document, you know. But the idea of actually proposals that you bring to the Senate, I
Yeah.
think we're in this, we're definitely.
Are we gonna make that decision of not to ask? I mean, I think Kim is bringing up.
That's it now.
We have their hand up, but that's not what this is.
I just wondered, I know the current budget and the current environment is the way it is, but when I see the number of the fund being over 20, does that mean we're not gonna start this hiring process again until we have 20 people retire that we don't replace?
Maybe.
And that's a huge impact to
Mhm.
this college, so I wanna know if that's explicitly the issue. We may not be doing it for the next 5 years.
But I think that's where these criteria, the ones that are highlighted, help us. I mean, if it's a real emergency, then maybe the college has to bite the bullet.
Like the diving and welding program, where they have their
Yeah.
retirement, and it's like, if they go away, if we don't hire that full-time person, we lose that program, and that program is a huge, I mean, we're one of the only places in the
That's
entire.
why we
country.
hired it last.
That's what we had to,
Right.
so like, I think it's that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
that does that, yeah, exactly.
The cohesion of the curriculum is not such that you can pull threads apart, that you can continue to give all the offerings that students need to be able to move forward.
Well, there's some programs that can operate with adjuncts.
Right.
Temporarily. Some programs just can't. I mean, there just aren't those people.
But we're also running up against a challenge where qualified adjuncts can be very hard to be able to come
Yeah.
by.
Well, it's true.
Unfortunately, we also have a situation where sometimes even fresh graduate students who might be able to fill in these roles are being discouraged from coming to the community college. We are running up against some very serious challenges, and for those that can actually earn more in industry, these are special people that come to us. And we are facing some very serious challenges. 20 is a very big gulf to be able to surmount. And also, this is going to be based on projected funding, based on what our enrollment situation is going to look like moving forward. Right now, they're just saying we are way above what our operating costs. So yeah, this is a challenge. At the same time, we have a responsibility to rank these requests. Not everybody, even in financial solvent time, gets who they want, but to be able to sunshine those needs is going to be important moving
So
forward.
do you feel like we should rank positions? We make that decision?
But perhaps can't we consider the more moderate choice of
ranking emergency requests for position.
I would be in
Like-
favor of that.
Like sending out to chairs, look, this is the time we live in. Does your department with, a gap in your faculty rise to this definition of emergency? In which case you can make the request.
If I may, just sharing the timeline here, got a chance to talk with Maria earlier today. So you might want to put this on your calendar, again, tentative, depending on whether or not the Senate has any feedback, there is a timeline for this. So the memo is to be released September 27, I believe that's a Friday. Requests for data, Keller is busy, but the request for data, October 18. And requests, those submissions by November 15. There's a question about how much time that people will have to be able to get their data and also to be able to put together a proposal and a presentation for the Senate. So the dates, once again, September 27 for the memo to be released, requests for data by October 18, submissions by November 15. What you're thinking, Caps, on see if what the pros and cons are of that timeline, and to see if that gives everybody enough time to get their data and to be put together a proposal. Okay.
Given the emergency criteria, I don't know how important data is. I mean, honestly, because it's program survival, it's accreditation licensing, it's legally required, it's subsidized. So even the bottom two aren't gonna be data out of Keller's office, so I guess I don't really understand that
We need,
category.
I think we need data because, like, I remember, before any of you were even alive, when we lost the welding program. And so that could have been considered emergency because, blah, 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 and we decided it was not a program that would be viable. So I think there is need for some data to justify that it is an emergency.
Josh, would it be helpful if I hyperlinked this document stipulating the emergency parameters into the memo that goes out so that folks are well aware of the eligibility criteria by which their proposals will be ranked, and then it's up to them to submit it as an emergency or not?
I think that would be great.
I will hyperlink this.
Thank you. And no, please.
I mean, I'm assuming we're not gonna hire anybody, but if we were, is this too late? Because they have to give presentations to the Senate, then HR has to place pads, like, we're looking at January, which is well outside of the normal hiring cycle. So I guess I would wonder if we should really narrow this to like, if you are an emergency and actually send the memo out.
Maria, any?
So, two things. I'm happy to, send it out a week earlier and allow that more of that buffer time between the proposal submission. I will also say that last year we did follow similar timeline and we were still able to hire the 3 folks that we ended up hiring. Because what we wanted to do is wait until the governor's, January budget report, to be able to really help the college make a decision about whether or not to move forward with it. So if it helps.
Yeah, it's just, hiring is expensive. It's just like if we can. Because if we're really out of the, and we're hiring, but if we're out of the cycle, we're also not gonna get good candidates, and so it's like, why? If we are gonna hire, we should set ourselves up for success and not end up with this out of cycle. We need someone, we end up not being able to hire someone because we're missing the appropriate job cycle.
The only caveat again is that the district will not be ready to make a decision this semester about whether or not we are going to be able to hire again because of that January governor's report on the budget, so.
It's happening to other colleges though, so would it like the timing not be as relevant?
Good point. It is, everybody's FOM is down. Like, you're right, but then maybe that's not as much of an issue anymore, because.
Yeah.
Not every campus is a solution.
Not every, yeah,
Oh,
you know, and there is a regular academic level.
So the memo may go out a week earlier.
20th,
20th sounds good. What about the end date for submission? Any
yeah,
suggestions?
where do you want me to adjust that additional week? Where do you want me to apply the additional week?
I'm just asking, like, when would this come before Senate? So like, we have Thanksgiving, I think we have one meeting in December, so.
I think you have those
Do we-
tentative time dates, right, Josh?
Yes, please.
Yeah, they're on the agenda.
We're assuming there aren't gonna be many.
No, I
So it
know, but
shouldn't
it's
take
just,
long.
should it, are we gonna, back up.
It's
Do
gonna
we want to hear the presentations before winter break or after winter break? Like, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What about what Maria
I'm
said?
gonna remind you, did we have presentations last year?
No.
Right. So I mean, I don't understand why we're talking about it.
Well,
Because I don't think.
Because Josh decided that he was gonna send out the request for people to respond. Last year, we told him not to do anything.
Well, I think Maria's sending it out. and I-
Remember, last year was different, because we had failed.
They were failed surgery.
Well, we
Those were,
approved
those were the emergencies, right? So
That's
there
right.
was no need to have presentations.
That's right.
Oh,
We didn't
all of
send
them.
any New things out for people to apply to
Exactly.
like we would now.
Last year was different.
That was my question to Josh. Have we decided we're actually gonna ask for?
Right, because we have a very
Thanks.
different situation.
And you said yes, so now we have, if you said yes, then now we have to decide the timing.
That's why they were failed searches. Thank you. That's my bad.
Yeah, because we didn't ask for
They
anything
weren't
last year.
all failed searches, I think like the category, the ESPS was that one.
It was
I mean,
failed, it's failed 3 years in a row.
But Maria said that the MDT and the nursing were not.
Those were crazy.
Was it nursing or?
Yeah.
parent child?
MDT was a failed search. MDT was a failed search.
It was an extension. We extended the
yeah.
deadline. That's. it's
Yeah.
different.
And nursing was, we had actually offered something, then somebody quit.
That's right. But we knew that, but we knew that in the fall, and we knew in the fall that those were gonna be.
Like right now, we don't actually know who might apply for.
Yeah, we have no idea. Maybe we shouldn't know.
But it does create a problem, because if these are due on November 15th, we have literally, right, like
November
one
13th.
meeting.
Just.
So if we can move everything up. I think that would.
Then it would give us the 13th and the
Yeah.
27th. if we-
Well, I would think if anybody gets these and they have an emergency, it's not gonna take them that long to get something together. I mean, if you really need something, you're gonna work your butt off to get it done. So give them a tighter timeline.
I guess the question is, I guess it makes sense to go through the whole submission process before the budget comes out and then the final go-ahead comes, right? And we don't wanna
'cause
wait that long.
Wait. Then it's another month or a month and a half, because we don't come back until January
27th.
27th or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
6 weeks.
And that's only tentatively scheduled 27th before.
So just like as a point of process, let's say we hear these submissions. Let's say this body strongly advocates for 3 positions. Let's say it's a rosier time than ever in January. At that moment, at that moment, even before we meet, can HR begin the hiring process?
Sure. I
If
mean,
we-
we're probably not
if we-
gonna hire 12 people.
So I know, I'm saying like 3.
Well, I'll also say that the 20 above font is a conservative projection on my part.
Like
It is.
conservative in a
Like,
good way or a bad way?
Well, it
And
could be
it's gonna
worse.
Higher, it's gonna be worse.
And so but that should not really affect the decision of whether it's an emergency.
Not emergency.
If it's an emergency, it's an emergency, regardless of what our font is. And that's really the only basis on which I believe we should be hiring. Now, there could be an emergency, maybe somebody suddenly quits. Or they get sick, or
That happened
they
last
win the
year with
lottery,
nursing.
you know? They win the lottery and off they go. So that could create an emergency.
That's my plan.
Me too. I guess I need to buy it.
My mom told me, you gotta play it, Laura, win it.
So are we going to do this timeline for these submissions?
So what is, I mean, Keller is the one who's gonna, although there probably won't be that many, like, is the 18th her preferred date? Will she care if it's earlier? Like, what is her workload? Like, do we know?
That I don't know, except that between this, the dashboard she's putting together, this ASCCC collegiality in action event, she is swamped.
Yes, she is.
But does anybody anticipate more than one or two emergencies?
No.
Well, people ought to be able to go into Tableau and get their own data if it's an emergency. I mean,
Especially considering the 6 areas that submitted.
yeah,
I intended.
yeah, they're not emergency.
They're not emergency.
So this is gonna be sort of a last shot deal, right?
Or somebody quits,
Yeah.
or the opposite.
So that would mean that we would have to also update the request for data. It is originally set for 10/18. Maybe we can ask Keller if she can move up that date, and that's within our capacity to do so.
I think we can, if the question is, can we send out the memo a week before, then yes, and I would just move every timeline up by 1 week.
Okay.
I can do that, yeah.
I think if we even keep it for the data on the 18th, folks could still probably get their submissions in by November, May.
By November what?
8th.
Yeah, they don't need their data that long.
Sure, that's,
So I'll feel stressed, we think.
that's on my bad.
So then moving this up, then we have our November 13 Senate meeting. And that also means that would be November 6, Wednesday, to be able to get those submissions in, the day after Election Day.
Oh, Lord. It's gonna be a celebration.
It's gonna be an emergency then.
Don't say that.
I didn't say that.
No.
Is that in the report?
Are we moving everything up except for the data request, two deadlines there listed in that paragraph?
I would be in favor.
Meaning the 18th of October and the 30th remain unchanged.
The 30th, I thought that would be the
15th, what's the 30th?
Oh, let's see, actually, what was it? It was the 15th.
The
that we
15th of
suggested?
November, you
So,
said.
I'm sorry, I got that wrong. That's because I was looking at the Senate meeting dates. So that would be November 8th.
Yeah, November 8th.
Friday,
Okay,
November
November
8th.
8th, okay.
Submissions.
Right?
October 11th.
If Keller can do October 11th, I still think even if we kept her piece October 18th, people could still submit by November 8th.
Yeah.
But I would send the memo out a week earlier.
Yes.
And also send reminders to people to get this data in. If we actually stick to the ASCCC visit,
Yeah.
On-
For the 11th.
it is a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm not clear yet on which dates we're going to actually
So if we
change.
move
Which ones remain unchanged?
the middle one remains unchanged.
There are 2 middle ones. That's what I'm asking.
What middle?
The data.
Data request has 2 deadlines attached, and Josh, you may not have pulled in that other date.
Probably
We
not.
can't.
So-
Yeah,
One-
that's right, because we had a date that said hard
Correct.
stop to be able
Yep.
to get the data in. So the 18th would have been the initial date to get those requests in. And also giving Keller some time to say no later than, so that would be,
About 2 weeks we're giving them.
yes.
Is that good?
October 31st.
Again, given that we might not have that many requests, especially if this is on an emergency basis,
I think.
then I think that will limit, yeah,
Okay,
so,
awesome.
okay.
So
We might.
I'm sorry, one more time on the dates for the minute.
September 20th is the memo date.
Yes.
Okay.
October 18th is the request for data,
Yep.
must be in by October 30th.
No, will be
Will be returned by
to the
October
department
30th.
Oh,
And then the submission date
For proposal.
is 8th, November.
November 8th.
all right, got it.
So that they can,
Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
So that we can have them for 13th.
Yeah. 13th.
Yeah, for their presentation.
yes.
And they're kind of all of them, see, but-
Any other follow-up questions or comments? Let's move on to our last two discussion items. Finally, we get to the question about feedback on scheduling and also some thoughts as well. Go ahead and pull those up, please.
How much time do we have?
Okay, time now is 4:27. But I don't think this is gonna be the last conversation, given that we also had our recent brown bag as well. It was good to see everybody there also having a really good constructive feedback about what our outlook is. As we get into our scheduling bill, also some important pieces that came out. One of them happens to deal with ad codes, another happens to deal with the availability of late start courses. So, a couple of things, not limited to this list, but on our minds, ad code availability, waitlist issues, and also concerns around the waitlists themselves. Apparently, we have some duplication of students getting onto waitlists for the same course. That is a problem because that both overestimates and underestimates what the demand is for that particular course. Unfortunately, that says, if we're looking at the waitlists, hey, it looks like we may need another section. But at the same time, with duplicated lists, we're also leaving out those students who might have gotten onto the wait list, but are not because they saw that those wait lists are full. That is a problem. The protocol for standby sections as well, what is within our FTE allocation. Viability of hybrid sections in late start was something that I threw in because of the fact that we sometimes have these short modular courses that sometimes being able to defer some of that content into the online medium might actually help us with scheduling blocks so that students are not coming here at 3-hour blocks twice a week, which I think is prohibitive of enrollment. Availability of late start GE courses. I just wanted to pull this up. Thank you very much, Christy, for providing this list. Currently, and again, current as of last week, the courses that are available, if we're taking a look at IGETC areas 1A through 6A, the only ones that are available and only on a waitlist basis currently, they are full. You have Math 150, you have Spanish 102, you have Earth and Planetary Science 111, another section of Spanish 102. Same section. And that's it. That's it.
Which is why I've already been referring students to CVC and looking at winter intersessions at other California community colleges in the third week of the semester.
It's our only recourse to be able to keep them moving. Even if we want to keep them here, they may not be able to take those classes with us. That's our responsibility to refer them. But that also says we're not offering a dynamic schedule such that pick up courses throughout the semester. If you look at other community colleges, the amount of late start classes that they offer makes it possible for them to be able to either concentrate on one half of the semester, a limited number of courses, or to be able to pick something up and for us to advise them accordingly that says, it didn't work out in the first couple of weeks, here's another option for you. I think it's an issue that we have to bring in as the scheduling work group. As we are doing this schedule building, we need to do some outreach to be able to say to people, there are courses that will satisfy IGETC. We need to help students with these courses for transfer. And so I'd like to bring that to the scheduling work group. We met twice over the summer. What outreach that we can do for faculty as we happen to be in this schedule building period, I think is going to be important. Something that has been discussed here and also that I'm seeing at some of our more local CSUs, they are extending the deadline for students to add into a course without ad codes.
That's a good idea.
Cal State Channel Islands for their composition program, they are allowing students to be able to add in. They've allowed courses to go on under enrolled as students are shopping around for courses. And it seems to, casual observation here, it seems to be working.
But we college are the same as then.
We had some sections that were as under enrolled, like in a composition course, as low as 3 students that have bumped up since to 12 inside of a week. But giving students a little bit of freedom to be able to do that on their own may be unnerving for us as we try to figure out what a situation is looking like. But at the same time, it also reduces the amount of work that faculty have to do to be able to contact students, to be able to bring in those ad codes. The availability of those add codes too for late start courses as well as another alternative to be able to assess what student need is rather than waiting for those wait lists to populate. That's also a concern that has been brought to the table too. Again, don't want to limit it to these items here, but open for discussion, general feedback. What are we looking at for fall 2024? How about we go with Kathy and then with Laura?
I'm just curious, when you're talking about letting students add later, so you have a class of 3, or the administration gonna let low enroll classes go long enough to see if those students will enroll?
If it was up to me.
Oh, good. Okay, doctor, you're gonna be the new president, yes. So, I mean, that's the question. I mean, that's an issue. I mean, I think that's a good idea, particularly for classes that aren't full, but they're full enough.
Yeah.
You know, close, and then students could go in and add as long as there's maybe some notification. I don't know, it'd be challenging for the faculty to know, okay, who's new and who's not.
I also want to be mindful, this is the CSU that we're talking about. They actually have funding to be able to have classes go under enrolled, particularly in their School of Extended Learning, because they want to make sure that students are making adequate progress. That California Promise funding is something that we would be able to get at. You're talking about active legislation.
Yeah, we're away.
Laura, we have.
Something I just wanted to point out, with as late as we start in January, having a winter intercession for us is a way to really make a cash cow for our school, if we would offer it. If we're gonna stay with this scheduling that we have adapted to and move to having us start after Martin Luther King Day, you can offer no, not every class can be offered. I'm in accounting. I would never offer an accounting class for 4 weeks. That's torture. But there are some classes, especially some of the I get the kind of classes, like I know my Fin 100, which is a math credit for CSU and USC or CSU's transfers. For them to come in, they could easily do my Fin 100. They get their math credit. They're ready to roll onto all these other things that they need. And doing it in a winter intercession is a really great way, one, for us to make as teachers a little money, them to make some money. It's treated like summer. That's how other colleges are handling it. And offering a winter intercession, it gives them that one leg up. So it's like a summer session, but you're doing it as a winter intercession. And we have the time to do it if we're gonna stay with this late start January schedule.
Rio Hondo College has a 5-week intercession program. These are marathons that we're talking about.
Oh, they are. Sure.
So they've been more successful with some of the 100 level courses.
Yes.
That are very content heavy, very survey based, but I would be in favor of that. For those working adults who want to fit this into the intercession, PCC had that for a time, also ran into some controversy when their administration canceled the entire intercession on them. That was a bit of a nightmare. That's something I don't want to see happen to us.
No.
Elizabeth, please.
Where would the FTEs come from for that though?
It's a good point.
Well, like, it depends how the school treats it. Ventura Community College District treats it very similar to how you do summer school. So it's not part of your normal 10-month contract. It's additional, and they've allocated. So it would be a total, not shift, but you'd have to pull FTF and you'd have to figure out how you're gonna handle it. And what they did is I think they pulled from whatever their FTF for summer was. So they reallocated over it.
So it would require a new registration cycle. And it would have had to be part of the 24-25 academic calendar, and it is not.
Yeah,
So it is something that we can consider for the next academic calendar, but it is something that we cannot legally do this semester, even if we all were about it.
I feel like, oh, go ahead.
With Danielle and then Kathy and then Kim.
This is more about like how we're allocating TLUs across the campus. But I was looking, like social science, we were completely full before the semester even started. And there needs to be space for students to enroll in classes. And whether and we generate more money because we are large classes. So if we're in this really terrible financial crisis, like we should be shifting TLUs from small classes to these larger classes, and we are IGETC classes. Because that would both serve student need. It would also be financially, it would make more sense for the college. And I don't know how those discussions happen about like where TLUs are allocated to different divisions. But, you know, like Tara teaches classes of 60, 70, 80, you know, we are the ones generating income for the college. And like right now, like history has one late start class and it's full.
I just want to say, no one's generating income for the college. That's the problem, because our funding is
Well,
higher than our enrollment.
Exactly, we still,
Right, for
Like,
productivity. It's
for productivity
thing.
numbers, if all we do is stay the same and make 15% cuts across the board, those productivity numbers will never
Exactly.
move.
No, that's.
Will
perfect.
never
Thank you.
move.
No, that's the difference, yeah.
Social science is the only division, except for accounting does too with some of the classes. We're the only ones, we cost nothing, we have no materials. We teach large classes. We are the only division that is gonna move that productivity number, and so.
I have
It's
a comment on
just
that.
After
what
everybody
it
else
is.
goes.
Kathy, and then Case.
So we've had the discussion many times about a intercession. And we've just really never resolved that problem. We have 2-week classes for all of our sports, 2 weeks prior to spring. But those TLUs I mean, we just spread our spring TLUs to make that work. It's a real problem to do an intercession. We've looked at so many options and it just has never worked. But, you know, on the other issue, I mean, oh, she's gonna leave now, it's good timing. So, I mean, I get completely what you're saying, so I hope my 27 TLUs I had to cut went to you. But you know, I'm getting to the point in PE where we're not gonna have any PE left if I have to cut anything more, and I'm sorry, but I happen to think health and physical education is really important. So I think we have to be mindful of those smaller classes. We have smaller classes in theater, we have them, we have to decide what kind of a college we want to be. And I totally agree. I think they should be adding more TLUs to you, not taking from one to, you know, to give to the other, because we do need that FTES regardless, you know, of what our philosophy is, we still need it. But I think the intercession thing is a wasted time of conversation because we've never been able to really resolve that in a way that we thought was reasonable. Because with some courses, like you said, you know, 4 weeks might be okay, but most departments do not want to offer, like, we can't even offer a regular physical education class in 4 weeks. It's too many hours, but we have short courses we offer during that time for the student athletes. So it's, the intercession thing is a problem for us. I think.
Also expensive to have to keep the college open.
Yeah.
Online would make sense, but it probably wouldn't balance out.
I think 90% of what Ventura is doing is online.
Yeah,
It's actually, it's not physical. Yeah.
Let's go with Kim, Katie, Maria, and Stephanie.
I think we're all still confused about meeting student need versus dealing with our budget. And I understand it, 'cause we spent our lives getting those classes available to students. That's why we did the push to try to increase caps. And I think that's, and what I think you've already heard this, Maria, but, faculty really need a plan from administration about what we're gonna do. As far as Danielle's question about offerings, as far as where are the classes that could be increased? When and how can we have that discussion? And I think there still isn't enough of a sense of the nature of the budget deficit that we have. Erica's email about the discovery of money for last year, that means we didn't have as big a deficit last year, made many faculty feel, oh, we didn't need to cut so much. That's not true. We still have this profound structural deficit that it's very hard to understand. And it's because we've made it so far with our incredible offerings that have many small classes. Our productivity's never been near the goal that we went for 2017 or 2019, whenever we committed to that with our union and our administration, and we never got there. And so we can't continue in this piecemeal, some people over enroll and some don't. It's not viable, and we aren't grasping the nature of the problem. So the scheduling work group, one of the reasons it was formed was to educate faculty about the budget in a deeper way. And so I think that it's gonna need to move into program review. So, the workshops we've had about scheduling, if, science over enrolls in some classes, they should get the opportunity to pay for some of those smaller special classes that give their programs vitality. That some programs can't have bigger classes and the rest of us carry that, not us, English doesn't. So I mean, it's like, I just want to remind us this bigger question, and I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm hoping the educational vision plan will help, but that's what we need, Maria. We need a overall picture and a plan for the future, and I don't know how to make it. Maybe to say that.
Katie, please.
Yeah, I mean, what you are raising is so profound and it is so complicated. But the comment I wanted to make was, for years in meetings like this, I've heard my amazing colleagues in social sciences talk about, give us more TLUs. We are the workhorses, and I totally agree with that, and I've passed it on. And in my division meeting this past in-service, the film studies people who are the one workhorse in the arts division, or as is art history, is big classes. But they also were saying, like, we need more TLUs. We're bringing in a huge number of students in our classes. And Michael Medell was actually spent a lot of time with us at that meeting. And he said something that I had never heard before, and I was kind of dumbfounded. He said, we all need to eat. Which was just so like, what? I was like, what? I don't get it. He was like, we have all these programs, we all need to eat. And I was like, oh, okay. But I realized that, and it was like quite a profound revelation, but I guess it was because there's a sense, and I don't know if this is true, because I always believe that, the number of students we could have on this campus could be up to 20,000. In which case, bring on the workhorses, because we need those to, pay for all the small classes. But in his conception, and if this is true, it's an interesting thought. It's like, no, we've got, 10,000 students. So if we put all of our, and that's a, kind of finite number, or it's 10,500 or something. It's a finite number. So if the workhorses are then like taking most of the students, what does happen to all those smaller programs? Do we say goodbye to them and say that, no, we simply cannot afford to have, a theater program. We can't afford to have a PE classes. We just can't afford it. We can only offer these big workforce courses because we only have 10,500 students, and that's all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is, but also like, I feel like we are building too small of a schedule for the numbers of students that want to take our classes. So that's another conversation, again, that I don't think is happening, which is, we need to be over 10,000 students. Right. We fall out of medium college status, which is another $3 million. But I don't feel like, we've been talking about this at Senate and PNR for a really long time.
Right.
There's no plan. As far as I can tell, there's just no plan, and there's never been a plan. And faculty are asked to do more and more and more without any sense of like, what is it that we're trying to do? How are we going to solve this budget deficit? Do we have one? apparently there was money sitting in account generating interest that nobody knew about, you know, like, what is going on actually in business services? Because none of us can plan if the budget is just loosey-goosey, and Brian can't seem to understand how faculty are
The
paid.
structural deficit is
And-
still there, so that money that was found doesn't change.
You know?
But I mean,
And-
it just.
And also, we have a board that keeps an extra $1.5 million buffer for equipment.
Right.
That,
They
so
can't
that's
get
unmarked money.
Right.
They put more money into reserves than is required. So is this structural budget deficit being driven by board policy and not actually by us? Does that make sense?
does,
Like, they're
but I mean-
stocking money away and we're running deficits that may not exist, may just be the cost of operating a college, and they're keeping these large pockets of money in places that we cannot spend.
My two brief follow-ups are like, from my own department, I mean, we were devastatingly cut. Like under, honestly, Priscilla Butler, she sliced our program to shreds. And then when we cut 15%, I mean, we're left with the skeletal remains. So, you know, what is the plan? And then my second point is, in a lot of circles I hear, why aren't we marketing to out-of-state colleges anymore? Why aren't we, you know, re-engaging in those college fairs as we used to? Why do we have to accept that we're a, you know, 10,500, you know, school? Why? But we haven't had consistent leadership at this college since John Romo. I mean, so, you know, we don't have a sense of direction from our leadership, and we as faculty shouldn't be like scrabbling around for like, you know, the little bits of scraps that we can gain.
When we were in this situation years and years ago, Jack Friedlander would say, can you fill that class? And I'd say, I sure can, he said, you offer it. I mean, I understand the whole productivity thing. I mean, all of us understand that by now,
Yes.
but that is not the only goal we should have. We should have a goal of bringing students on this campus. If you can add and get 35 or 40 or 60 students in a history class, you should be able to offer it. It's ridiculous. And I understand the productivity, Maria. This is nothing about all your productivity stuff. We get that. But we is to be told, you fill that class, you open that class. And it really didn't matter what time of the semester it was. And we went through very bad times. And I mean, I'm telling you, in my department, we were sliced and diced in 2008, 8, 9, 10. But we also had a great,
Athletic.
well, we still kept our PE program. We didn't go away. And the board still had a good surplus. We even had more surplus, and the college was able to grow back. Because when we could grow back, we started adding sections. So I think somehow or another, we got to service our students. Why are we turning these kids away? I don't understand.
Everyone, we are at 10 minutes to the end of our session. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. Let's go with Maria. Maria, Stephanie, Laura, Jamie.
So yes, this is a big conversation that, I mean, we all have so much more to say. Even those who have already spoken a lot about this. I know there's more that needs to be said around this. I have so much to say about it as well. And I don't even know honestly where to start right now, but I'll start with just the most recent feedback from Kathy. Productivity has not been the only priority this year. I would like to remind us that we have been increasing FTEs as well every semester for the past 3.5 semesters, or 3 semesters at least, if not before. The model that we are using, we strongly feel has been working because it has allowed us to increase productivity and it has allowed us to increase FTEs. So productivity has not been the only goal. And so I want to clarify that. We've also been allowing folks departments to go beyond their allocated FTE. And I have said that repeatedly at these meetings, including social sciences, including English, including the arts, including math. Folks have been allowed to go over the TOUs because productivity has not been the only goal for me, for us, for the council, etc. All of these productivity efforts also have not been driven because of our current budget situation. We've always said repeatedly, even if these were great economic times, we must be more productive. We cannot afford to not be productive, not just in instruction. I get it. We all need to be productive across the campus, but I'm part of the instructional side of the house. So that's why you're hearing that, you get that from me. As far as a plan, there is a plan. We have the strategic enrollment plan with productivity targets and fill rate targets. We have an EdVision plan that we just had the opportunity to provide great feedback towards. My job is to run those, implement those plans that you all created. What I need from us, from the curriculum side, is to really have that hard conversation about how sustainable do we want to make this college moving forward. Our enrollments are declining in general. We are ahead compared to a year ago, but in general, they're not up compared to other areas of California. The Central Valley is hiring people left and right. We are in Santa Barbara. It is very expensive, as you all know. Our enrollments will not be, as far as my humble opinion is, and based on conversations across the state, at the place where they were in the good old times. They just won't, unless something drastically happens with housing around here. The election in November will help determine how many more international students decide to come back to our country. So there's a lot of variables here and that we all have to juggle in order to it's a balancing act. Yeah, if based on these number of class cancellations this past week, I'm able to afford to open up another anthropology class or a sociology class or another English 110, which is very expensive, or a music class that I just opened because I was told I can get 40 students in there. We just did that last week. So there also needs to be some trust in our carrying out our jobs. In the way that I trust all of you in your classrooms, I would like that to be reciprocated as well. And I'm open to continuing to having these conversations and make, changes and improvements to how we are doing things. But please don't say that we are turning students away when we are increasing FTEs in the most productive way we have done in a very long time. Because that is simply not true or fair to all of our collective efforts. Thank you.
Stephanie, please.
Okay, so just jumping in here, I do just want to go ahead and say that working on this college, I work with some of the most passionate faculty, both counseling faculty and instructional faculty. And I think when all of us talk about our special programs, like you generally do see a spark in faculty and just like the passion that they have to serve students. And I know like on the big picture, we have been talking about what it means for like righting the ship financially, whatever that means. And there are these big picture plans at play. And I know like I even sat on some of the EdVision plan, one of the subcommittees and stuff like that. But I think what's fundamentally happening is really like at the individual department level, when we put in our scheduling, we don't see how that big plan really translates at our class offering specific level. And you hear these like really amazing ideas, and we have some of the experts in the room, like our counseling faculty. They truly see how students can maybe tile classes together? Like, could we make some of our courses an 8-week course, and then so they can take English 101, and then whatever the next series, I'm sorry, English 101 is not the first in the class. I don't know. And so, yeah, so it's just, like, there are really beautiful mechanisms here at play that we can take from other colleges, but really, like, how do we translate those big plans and leverage our counseling faculty? Our counseling faculty, I know are working with the students one-on-one, but if they can come to each of our departments and really help us redesign a schedule instead of it being like, it feels like a lot of times like the Wild Wild West. We go to our department meetings and we're like, okay, we need to reduce our load, we need to be more efficient. What is the most practical way? And the target keeps changing, right? The first semester we came back from COVID, we only had a handful of classes face-to-face. That trajectory is always changing. So it'd be just really amazing effort with this new CourseLeaf software. Where are students, what time blocks are the most used? So we need to start offering classes outside of that time block. How can we really efficiently get students into our classes by offering 8 weeks and 8 weeks? It gives students a late start option as well as things happen. And you know, the idea of winter intercession, okay, I'm gonna maybe speak too boldly here for my science division. I do want to say the science division, last spring, we had a productivity of 18.9, and half of our labs are 24-person labs because of safety legal reasons. We cannot be in a chem lab with chemicals with over 24 students with one faculty member. It is unsafe for our students. But we've been really trying to make lecture sizes big. And because of that, you know, working with our dean with the Good Trust, my program, we do offer specialty classes and we do offer winter intercession short courses. And that's been a really great success for our students because it doesn't conflict with anything else and it allows them a program elected that allows them to transfer, and they get field credits when they transfer to their 4-year. So that model's been working. Those FTEFs go to the fall schedule though. So the faculty, it's the fall. So it's kind of weird, but I think it's because it's not an institutional practice. As Maria said, so if we build this in, it could be a really powerful tool for the right class, for the right departments, for the right students. But us as faculty members who are experts in our field, we don't necessarily always see that landscape. And like, I know we don't really have that working capacity with counseling. So it's just like, it just really makes sense as CourseLeaf evolves and it's being put on department chairs. Like, I really think that I would benefit from having counseling faculty help advise us and building these new schedules instead of us guessing, well, we should maybe add a couple more face-to-face because last semester face-to-face was more popular, so let's make 2 of these online face-to-face. I just think that would be so powerful. And counselors, don't you see things that we're doing wrong? And you could have predicted it 6 months earlier, and then we didn't get the memo, and then we're doing that wrong.
There was no memo.
How can we work together, the most passionate faculty I've ever met, who have a spark for your students, who have a spark for your subject matter? How can we do this right? Like a serious, like we know we have a scheduling software, and this right, it's like we're working at too many levels. There's this big umbrella, like efficiency, blah, blah, blah. But okay, but like, no, like for realsies, like the schedule was due on Sunday, right? Like how now we have a few weeks, we're working with our deans. How do we really make sure we can fix this? Because, right, we've already allocated our TLUs. Do we need to switch some of our classes to short course classes? Do we need to push the start date so now all of our short courses start on the first day of the semester? Like, help. Like, how do we really do this? Like, we can really make a big change for next semester, I think, if we're really on the same page. And we have time. We have a few weeks. So I don't know if I said what I really wanted to say, but okay, well, one last thing. Moving forward to the future, when it does come to our state allocated budget and the student success funding formula, again, I'm coming at it from my pipeline into the system, which is the science division. There's kind of 2 things, right? Students get, part of the funding formula is success in English and math, right? But none of my majors can get an AST in earth science, okay, astronomy or geology can get an AST in geology or astronomy without completing their math series.
Right.
So if our students, which has happened, many, and I think our science counselors are here, a lot of my STEM majors couldn't finish their math series, couldn't get into 150, 160 because of demand or the schedule conflict that we created because we weren't talking to our math colleagues. And so not only are they not getting credit for them completing their math series, we're also not getting credit for them completing their AST. And at graduation, it like breaks my heart that there's like one major, but I have a program that's robust with students that many are transferring to four-year schools, being very successful, winning some of the top awards in the nation in earth science actually when they transfer. But they have no degree here and we're not getting funding for those students. And so like looking forward to the future, really like scheduling and all this stuff and FTEs aside, like part of what's going to allow us to offer more section and have more diversity is the state funding formula. But it seems like we're so lost in the weeds that we can't get to there. So I know I feel like I'm shooting myself in both foot when my students don't get their math requirement done, they also can't get their AS. And so like, we can solve this, the most passionate faculty I've ever met. Like, how do we do this?
Well, it's hard when you only have 2 weeks to put your spring schedule together.
And
That was a little challenging.
Hard.
That was a little challenging.
Hard software.
And the software is a nightmare.
Everyone to be continued. Without question, but we can pick this up as well. Let's hearing, we should see that we can have a continuation of this discussion for our visitor from the channels. Do you have any questions?
I have a clarification. On FON, that stands for faculty obligation.
Correct.
And you guys mentioned it was up by 20. What is faculty like in terms?
Basically, we have 20 more faculty than we are funded.
Full-time.
Okay.
Full-time.
Okay.
And that's an estimate.
Okay.
It's not a final number at all.
Okay.
Everyone, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
You must be headed down by light. Looks like I feel like.
Diatribe, events for 10 minutes at my sense. My feelings hurts. Right on.
I mean, maybe she'll be on this.
Some people more, right?
Yeah, this should be fine. Okay, I just like, I have a few late students. We can be